All right, awesome. So we can go ahead and get started. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here at our virtual panel tonight. My name is Sarah O'Connell. I am a senior here at Boston College. I am double majoring in elementary education and perspectives on Spanish America in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. I am also the media coordinator on our Student Admissions Program Council this year. So I get to have the honor of moderating this panel. And the theme of our panel this evening is a spotlight on seniors. So while I am a senior, these four panelists are also seniors themselves. I'm very excited to have them here to share their stories about what the last 4 years at Boston College has meant for them. And I think you're definitely in for a treat. They've all had a lot of great experiences here, and they're also wonderful at reflection. So they'll have great stories to tell about all these experiences they've had. They're also some of my closest friends. You'll see that I'm here right now in the SAP office. We are all members of the Student Admissions Program. You see I've got the wonderful couch cushions behind me. This is where we hang out all day long. So I'm looking forward for all of them to get to share their stories with you this evening. If you have any questions, you can feel free to type them in the chat, and we might get to them as we are going along. I've also got a couple questions prepared for them. So we'll be doing a mix of these panelists sharing their answers to questions I've come up with and questions that are on your minds. So feel free to type anything in the question section that you would like us to answer. So we can all get started with the panelists introducing themselves. And I'm also going to ask them to, tell you a little bit about themselves, give their name, their major, where they're from, and then also to just kind of tell their BC story. They've got a couple minutes to tell you about why they decided to come here, all the meaningful experiences that they've had, just to get you thinking about what you might want to ask them questions about. So with all that, I will turn it over to Brian.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Brian Gardner, like Sarah said, and I am also a senior from Foxborough, Massachusetts. I study finance and business analytics in the Carroll School of Management. And I also have a major in psychology in our Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. And unpacking 4 years at Boston College is certainly not an easy undertaking. And thankfully, we'll have 4 tries at it here as we go around. But I think for me, the best way to summarize my story as I look back with a whole lot of gratitude for my time on the Heights would be a little bit in how Boston College has reinstilled my own love of learning and really changed my perspective of who I want to be in the world. For a little bit of context, I grew up in an entirely public school system. I'd never really done reflection or retreats or service in the spirit of Jesuit values, which we'll probably talk some more about as we go forward, which are so true to the nature of Boston College. So for me, getting into a college was all about prestige, having a good time, and getting a good job off the back end of it. And I think because of that, so much of what I did in high school was checking the boxes of going to my classes, getting the best grades possible, being as good as I could on my soccer team and as many solos as possible in the band, and then going home, flicking on, the SpongeBob and Squidward cartoons and continuing on with my day. But coming to Boston College, I was immediately shifted from that mindset to a whole new idea of how lucky we are to be in the position that we are, to have an amazing education that we can then use for something bigger than ourselves. And immediately, I no longer just wanted to be a finance major, but the core asked me to explore new topics. A lot of my extracurricular involvements pointed me in the direction of retreats. I would shout out 48 Hours as a retreat specifically for first-year students that I loved, as incredibly popular, and for me was my first introduction to reflection, to taking time away from the busyness of college life to reflect on your friends, your experience, maybe a little bit of homesickness. And for me, that was so impactful in understanding that there's a life beyond just being a good student and a good professional candidate, and also looking after yourself and looking after and learning about what your passions will be moving forward. I'm sure there's a million different places where you could spend the next 4 years of your life beyond senior year of high school and learn a great deal. But for me, the way the Jesuit values asked me to reflect on where my interests lied put me in a really unique place to change my pursuits. I went on to pick up a psychology major and found an organization surrounding altruism, and I hope I'll get the chance to talk about some things like that as we move forward. But looking back 4 years later, I'm very proud of the job I have. I've had a ton of fun memories at Boston College, but I think my biggest gratitude is towards having a new love for learning and a better understanding of myself, who I am, and the difference I hope to make in the world using this education that I feel so lucky to have.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. All right, Jen, you want to take your turn?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So hi, everyone. My name is Jen Lozano, also a senior, of course. I'm originally from Orlando, Florida, and I am studying applied psychology and human development in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. And I have a double major in political science as well in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. And yeah, I can agree with Brian. I think looking back on 4 years, it's crazy to think how much I've been able to pack in there. But I'm so thankful, just like Brian was saying as well, for all those opportunities that have come and for the growth that I've definitely seen in myself and in my friends and in my peers as well. And I think I owe a lot of that to what BC does really well, which is providing resources for students in so many facets. And I think that's something that definitely came to mind when I was looking at schools. I, like Brian, also went to a public high school in Florida, a very large public high school, was very used to kind of the pipeline to another public institution, was going to stay in Florida. But then I heard about BC, I visited BC, and I thought it was really unique, the resources that it offered, because it wasn't just such a great academic institution, of course, offering great academic resources and career resources, but it was also offering opportunities for students to kind of step out of their comfort zone and do that same thing that I didn't get in my public high school experience, which is reflection, not just in things you're interested in, but things that kind of bring you joy and things that bring you closer to what you feel really passionate about, which I think was very interesting. And I think BC being also a medium-sized school allows it to do that because we get to be a part of really big organizations like the Student Admissions Program, or I was a part of the Campus Activities Board, where we got to plan huge events and bring amazing performers on campus and do like trips and excursions and have like charcuterie board nights, which is so fun. But we'd also get to do that smaller size school thing like reflection in groups, in retreats, with my roommates hanging out in the kitchen, with friends on the lawn or on the quads or anything like that. And I think that's definitely brought me to all my experiences, and looking back, that is definitely something I am incredibly thankful for and will forever be thankful for. But I think beyond that, I think something that definitely drew me to BC is this idea of growing you right academically and as a person and as an individual, but also as someone who's a part of the community. And so I think the things I've been able to do have been very community oriented, which has been something that was really important to me. And I think is really hard to get at larger schools. But BC does offer a lot of resources for that. So my freshman year, I was a part of a program called the Emerging Leader Program, ELP for short. And we talked about different leadership styles and how that could be implemented, not just inside a classroom, but outside of a classroom. And we worked closely with schools, specifically this one school called St. Columkill, and just working with children and talking to them and meeting their needs and thinking about what the Boston community needs and how that kind of correlates with my interests was really cool. And that's actually how I learned about applied psychology within the Lynch School of Education. And even though I haven't found my calling in a school like Sarah has, which she's going to be an amazing teacher, I have found my calling in working with people. And I think the resources that BC has offered have really thrown me into that overall.
Thank you so much, Jen. All right, let's head over to Mikayla. Go ahead.
Yay. Hi, everyone. My name is Mikayla Sanchez. I am originally from Berkeley Heights, New Jersey, and I am double majoring in sociology and history in our Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences and minoring in managing for social impact and the public good in our Carroll School of Management. I'm also a senior like everyone else here, and I started with SAP my freshman year. So this is very full circle, especially having to do these panels 24/7 during COVID our sophomore year. It's very roundabout and full circle for us, I know, to experience again. But similar to Jen and Brian, I came in freshman year coming from a completely public school background. I did grow up going to mass usually on Sundays. I grew up in a Catholic household, but when I made my confirmation, that was kind of my decision then to not really attend mass anymore. So I didn't really know how that would manifest when I came to college, like thinking about religion and thinking about myself outside of my sphere of home and what my parents expected of me and things like that. So I guess talking about, so hard to like conceptualize our 4 years that are ending so quickly, but I think what I would like to do is talk about some classes that have impacted me and kind of the people along the way that have guided me through different realms and things like that. So my freshman year, I took a class called Introduction to Latin American Societies with Professor Gustavo Morello, and it was one of my favorite classes still to this day. I took it to satisfy my cultural diversity core requirement, and at the same time, I was taking political science because I was thinking about going to law school. It was pre-law, and I was like, I need to take poli-sci in order to go to law school, right? Not true. Took one class, hated it. Sorry, Jen. Did not like it. It was not what I thought it was going to be. And in a sociology class, I was feeling just challenged and excited to learn about the intersection between like politics and economics and sociological topics and how disparities in Latin America manifest themselves in those countries, but also around the world. And it was something that really intrigued me. So I took that class with Gustavo Morello, who's a Jesuit priest at BC, originally from Argentina. He's become a mentor to me across my 4 years here at BC. I ended up doing research with him about tattoos and their meanings, which is kind of weird. I didn't know I could conduct research and get paid for it if I wasn't doing like hard sciences. So talking to him, being in that class really opened up my eyes to the amazing things that the core curriculum could provide and made me realize that I wanted to study sociology. And at the same time, I was taking a first year topic seminar in the history department. And that Professor Pendis, also kind of moved me to start to think about studying history as well. So from that point on, I took a lot of history and sociology classes, and I really found a love for it. And I guess another awesome experience that I had at BC, aside from taking studies in crime and social justice with defense attorney Jessica Hedges with Jen, most amazing class ever. She's just ultimate badass. And it was just such an amazing class thinking about reforming the criminal justice system and using our readings and our experiences in our internships, whether that's working for the Boston College Innocence Program that Jen and I have been a part of that helps wrongfully convicted people get out of prison through BC's own law school on Newton campus, to the fact that I was working at the U.S. Attorney's Office at the time as well, interning there. I think it was a great way to have those real life experiences, but also bring them in the classroom and talk about how we can leave college with the idea of reforming the criminal justice system and doing something beyond in that way. Aside from that little realm, I had the opportunity to study abroad my junior year, and it was the most incredible experience ever. I know my friends here know that I won't stop talking about it and they get annoyed with me, but it was absolutely incredible to travel around. My parents had never been to Europe. It was very exciting for me to study there, study different topics. I learned a lot about the Spanish Inquisition, took a lot of history classes and also law classes when I was studying abroad. And it was cool to be able to bring those topics back to the classroom my senior year, first semester, because I was taking a history class called Latin America before Latin America. And that was awesome because I could talk about how the Spanish Inquisition was taught while in Spain and bring it back to the States. Aside from being like academically an awesome experience, I was able to make a lot of great friends that I still play intramural volleyball with. You know, I'm a big scrapbooker. I like to use double-sided tape to make sure that all my pictures are nice and situated so I can look back on all those amazing memories. But coming back senior year, I was like, what classes am I going to take? Like I have one sociology, one history to fulfill. What am I going to do? So I'm taking a class now called Theology, Service, and Solidarity. And I never thought I would be taking a theology class outside of my core curriculum requirements that I satisfied my freshman year. But it's been the most incredible experience to hear how there's an intersection between faith and social and racial justice and being a servant leader. We talk a lot about servant leadership here at BC, the idea that you can go out and do service, but it should never be something that's like egotistical or something that you want to like inflict your own ideas on others, but rather serving other people based on what they need, not what you think they need. And I think that's something that has manifested throughout my time at BC. Even thinking about reforming the criminal justice system and serving in the future in some way, something that I think is deeply ingrained in me, one, by the way I was brought up, but also now seeing how I can incorporate religion and my values into my coursework and what I want to do in the future, I think is really powerful. So it's a little bit about my roundabout story.
Thank you so much, Mikayla. All right, Yash, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, Sarah.
It's okay.
Thanks, Mikayla. Hi, everyone. My name is Yash. I'm also a senior in the Carroll School of Management, concentrating in economics and finance, with a minor in history in the Morsi College of Arts and Sciences. And I'm originally from Mumbai, India. And my story to BC is a little bit non-traditional. I went to an international school back in India, so a lot of my friends and a lot of people from my high school ended up studying abroad. A lot of people go to the US, Canada, places like that. But no one had ever applied to BC. I was the first person from my high school to apply to BC, first one to get in. Naturally as well, because now that I'm here, I obviously got in. And when I got in, I was like, BC is this great school, has a lot of opportunities, but I don't really have like a support system there just yet. So I'm going to kind of put it on the back burner. Got into the university and I was dead set on going there. Was about to pay the deposit and kind of had these like few moments of doubt and was wondering if that other university is the right place for me. Looked at BC a little bit more, looked at the BC website, a lot of videos in YouTube, just kind of interacting with the campus as much as I could, given my distance and seeing just how gorgeous the campus was, the sort of academic freedom that would be available to me, the opportunities outside the classroom, whether it was from a professional setting, but even from like just an extracurricular setting, all kind of stood out to me. So I took a little bit of a leap of faith. I didn't know anything about BC, didn't really have that network here, but decided, why not? Let's see, what's the worst that could happen. And I remember just before orientation, I was moving into my dorm. We were driving up and I could see like the top of the spire of Gaston, and I was like, oh my God, this is real. Like I'm finally here. Like this is it. And I was terrified. Like I could feel my heart thumping, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. And looking back in my freshman year, I did a lot of things which I had done at the high school level. So I got very comfortable in that sense. Like I took a lot of classes that were somewhat familiar to me, but also took a lot of classes that were unfamiliar to me. So one class that really stands out to me was a class called Portico. That's a class that all students in Carroll School of Management are required to take in their freshman year. And that's essentially a business ethics class, but it kind of combines a lot of like BC's mission of being people for others, but tying that in with the business lens, thinking about critical questions that people working in business have to answer today, having to really put your voice out there. So big emphasis on discussion and sharing your thoughts. A lot of group projects. So we had a group project where we had to analyze the supply chain of a company and a product. My group and I chose to do it on Hydro Flask. I'd never done anything like that in my life before, but had to kind of push myself out of my comfort zone. And so initially, the way I was doing that was within the classroom. So I felt relatively settled, but I wasn't pushing myself outside of the classroom. So when it came to like what I enjoyed doing outside of classes, I was still pretty much the same person I was in high school, and that's fine. And like I was happy with that. But I think for me, my BC journey really changed when I decided to do things differently and kind of explore new things. So 2 summers ago, I did this job, this year mission program, giving tours and panels for entire summer. As a freshman or as someone in high school, I never thought that would be a summer job I'd be interested in doing. I hate public speaking. I was terrified of public speaking before doing it. And then I spent 11 weeks doing public speaking. I got to work with Sarah and Brian, met Jen during that summer, eventually worked with Mikayla as well. And now working with all 4 of them, that kind of happened because I just pushed myself out of my comfort zone. But that also opened me up to what BC has to offer. So I learned about a bunch of other programs that BC has to offer, like APA, which is, I believe someone mentioned that in their introduction, spring break trip where you go and do service in the Appalachian region, learn about Kairos, which is one of the most popular retreats here on campus. And I thought, why not try these things? Maybe I like them, maybe I won't, but at least I'll try them. And because of that, as I would try new things, I pushed myself out of my comfort zone, discovered the kind of person I am, developed a lot of great skills as well. And I think today, as a senior, I feel a lot more at home on campus because I decided to try these things. I've realized what I like, what I dislike, but I'm glad I tried those things. I've made connections all across campus because of those experiences. And I just don't think I'd be the person I was today if I didn't try to do things differently than I would have if I just come in the same way I was as a freshman. So my advice to you guys would be, if you do come to BC, if you come in as a freshman, yeah, it's okay to be comfortable in what you're doing. And if you want to do the same things you did in high school, go for it. You'll be very happy doing so on campus, but don't be afraid to try something different. If you don't like it, you don't like it, but you might end up loving it and you'll find a whole new part of yourself that you didn't know you really had before.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yash. So now you've gotten to know a little bit about each of our panelists that you'll be hearing some more stories from for the next about 40 minutes. And I'm so excited for you to get to hear some more. So my next question, not everybody has to answer, but anybody who wants to can, give this one a stab. I'm just wondering, what is the way in which you think you changed the most since freshman year? And I know you kind of touched on ways that different opportunities at BC have allowed you to change in little bits. Like, things that you've learned to think about differently, especially Yash in the story you were just sharing, you were saying you've been so inspired to try new things. That's a great way that you've grown as an individual since freshman year. But what's like one way that you think you've changed the most over the 4 years?
I think I have some echoes to Yasha's story as well with, joining different programs that teach you things about yourself and developing skill sets. I would very much say I entered Boston College a huge introvert and someone nose to the grindstone, very focused on myself and trying to do the best I could and not worried about helping prospective students or serving on any sort of panel. And slowly over time, I think parts of me realized that while I was still interested in working as hard as I could as a student, the most fulfilling parts of my days were in the service of others. And at times it'll look very differently. Yash mentioned the APA spring break service trip. If you had told me as a 17-year-old writing my college application that in my senior year, I would choose to not go to Bora Bora or Cabo or home even for break, but I would go to rural North Carolina and put down flooring in a donation-funded elementary school, I would not have believed you. But Boston College is a way of teaching you about the things that really matter. And, Jen mentioned the community and the importance of the people and, the opportunities that will uplift you at Boston College. I think shifting your mind from what you think matters to slowly learning what really matters to you. I'm sure it looks different to all 5 faces you see here on this panel and all 9,000 undergraduates that there are at BC, but you're given the spaces to find those things. And I certainly would not have known what they looked like for me as I entered Boston College, and the predictions that I had is most certainly not how it's ended up for me at this point in my life. But I'm incredibly grateful for the spaces and for the people that have helped kind of show me those ways and teach me the things that really matter.
Yeah, I can definitely echo that. And I think something else that I've definitely seen in myself is I don't think I've ever been fully an introverted person, but I would always second guess myself and just be afraid to ask questions if, I don't know, I thought it was going to come off as weird or as if I didn't know the answer or anything like that. But I think something I've really been empowered to do is to ask questions and to not be afraid to advocate for myself in that way. And I think that's something that is really hard at a lot of different places. Like I said, I went to a big public school, so oftentimes there just wasn't time to ask questions one-on-one or individually. But because of the class sizes, because of the professors that really want to have discussions and not just talk at you, and because of the type of people that are at BC, asking questions is the best thing you can do. And I've really been shown that and have learned that. And I think in asking those questions, kind of like Brian and Yash were saying, I've been able to find so many opportunities, like even talking to upperclassmen, which are so happy to talk to underclassmen. They will want to tell you any professor recommendation, class recommendation, club recommendation, because they want to impart that on BC in their time here. So that's how I found out about the Innocence program that Mikayla was talking about. That's how I got involved in the student admission program in the campus activities board and so many other retreats and things like that, is by asking questions and asking people about their experiences. And I think that is something that BC really gives space to, not just in extracurriculars, but also within the classroom space. And that's how I feel like I've also made a lot of amazing connections.
Sorry. All right. Thank you guys so much for sharing your answers. So another question that I have for you guys, and by the way, all of you watching, you can feel free to put your own questions in the chat or in the question and answer box. If you come up with your own questions that you would like any of our panelists to answer, we can also get to those if we'll have time for them. But another question that I have for you guys is, could you point to one opportunity that really allowed you to grow as a person, right? Like, can you think of like one opportunity that Boston College gave you that allowed you to grow as a person? And what was that opportunity? Maybe it was in the classroom, maybe it was outside. And how did it allow you to grow as an individual?
I can speak a little to the Kairos program here at BC. I know Brian has not been on it, and Sarah has not been on it, so I won't reveal too much, but
I'm going senior week.
Yeah.
Still gonna get to go when I'm in our last week, so I'll soon know.
Yeah, so if any of you attend like a Jesuit high school, this may be something that you're familiar with. It's called different names sometimes, maybe like Emmaus or encounter. We call it Kairos here at BC. Basically, it's a faith-based retreat. We offer plenty of different retreats. Brian mentioned 48 hours earlier, but basically, again, faith-based retreat. And there's a lot of surprises associated with it. So a lot of people don't know what they're going into when they go on this retreat. They know usually that there's no time, you don't have your phone for the whole weekend, and you're going off to a retreat center. And for me, I got called in December, and it was the most beautiful, wonderful experience. I know Jen also went in the fall. Yash, when did you go? Last year?
Fall as well.
Oh, you went in the fall too. That's right.
Same
Okay.
trip as Jen. We were in the same group.
Okay.
I mean, not the same group, but the
The
same
senior
large group. Yeah.
Senior week. Okay. So it's a beautiful time that I think I was able to grow and become a more empathetic and loving person, and also grow in my faith. There's a lot of emphasis on love equaling God. And I think me being someone who I was like curious about my religion, and if I really believed in Catholicism and like what I grew up hearing, it was a great experience for me to feel more solidified in what I believe. I also came back and wanted to have a lot of conversations with my boyfriend, who is not religious at all. And it kind of is interesting because a lot of people on the retreat don't identify with any religion, or certainly not Catholic. And it's really cool to hear how, even if you don't see love as being a form of God and a form of religion, I think it's still evident that feeling a sense of love is something that everyone wants to feel and should feel. And I think that's beautiful. And I think it shows that people from different backgrounds and different religions can come together and talk about that. I also have my Kairos poster up right here because my roommate and I both went on K239. So there's a number based on what retreat you go on. So we were the 239th Kairos retreat, and it's something that I hold very dear to my heart, and I'm very excited for Brian and Sarah to go. But I think it allowed me to grow in being more gracious, more loving, and just more patient, I think, as well.
Yeah, I'll echo kind of what Mikayla spoke about, but I want to talk a little bit about growth within the academic life here on campus. I think I definitely experienced a lot of that here at BC as well. So I kind of alluded to it in my introduction, but having to take classes that you won't normally take in high school is something that is not just expected; it's kind of required here at BC. Part of that's through the core curriculum. So I never took history class in high school, but then you had to take them here on campus. I took what's called an enduring questions class. So those take two aspects of our core curriculum and combine them into one interdisciplinary approach to education. So the class I took was called How Democracies Die. And something that's really cool about these classes is that they're only open to freshmen. So if you come to BC as a freshman, highly recommend enduring questions classes because first of all, they're very, very interesting classes, but also because you're only taking them with freshmen, it becomes like a nicer environment to be a part of. And so this class combined a history and a social science requirement. And in this class, we explored democratic systems from ancient Greece to ancient Rome to the modern United States. And that's when I realized a passion and interest in history. And that's what led me to my minor here on campus. A common story across campus, like all of us have a double major or a minor, and that's not a coincidence. I think coincidence. Sorry. I think all of us would kind of echo that we've had to take electives or classes that just sound kind of interesting, or just classes that are a requirement here on campus. But when we took those classes, we realized another passion, so decided to explore that with a minor or a double major. That's not unique to me. That's not unique to our panelists. That's unique. That's something that's common across campus. And I didn't realize that would be something I'd explore here on campus. But then even inside the academic setting, like you have to work hard. Like even at the freshman level, you were reading 100 pages a day of some really, really dense texts from like Aristotle to these ancient thinkers to like Rousseau and people who I'd never even thought I'd read. I remember my freshman year, I was sitting in my bed doing one of these really dense readings, and 20 minutes later, I passed out and fell asleep because I was like, I am not used to reading this at all. So you had to kind of also like shift gear and think about how to approach the academic life here on campus and just develop new skills. Like you might be successful academically in high school, and if you get into BC, you definitely are successful in academic life at high school, but it's a completely different ballgame on call and here at BC, and that's just something you have to adapt to. And so, going to professors' office hours, having conversations with them, it really helped me grow academically. And I think now, when it comes to taking these more challenging classes or doing challenging projects, I don't feel that nervous because I kind of had to grow within the classroom as well. I think that's something that really stands out to me during my time here on campus.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yash. I loved hearing from both of you guys about an academic experience and then also an extracurricular experience, because there are so many different ways that you do spend your time once you get to college, right? It's a really different schedule than when you're waking up in school all day from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., unless you're student teaching like me this semester, when you get to do that in college as well. But you have so much more free time to spend doing those incredible other opportunities that a lot of you have mentioned. So I appreciate hearing both of your stories too. Another question I have is about, and I know that Mikayla maybe mentioned this in her intro story, but just about like mentors. Who have those people been for you over your time? Who is like one mentor that you can really point to that you've been able to create a meaningful relationship with? And how did you get to know them? How were you connected to them on campus? When did you meet them? Did they come into your life when you were a first year student, or were you able to connect with them when you were, you know, a little bit older? And it doesn't even have to be an adult, it could even be an older student. So feel free to share.
I've got a pretty fun one to kick us off. As I alluded to in my own intro, when I was a freshman, I was just a business major here at Boston College. And moving through some of my first few classes, I quickly found that my psychology of motivation class with Dr. Christina Moore was my favorite class I was taking, and psychology as a subject was something I was interested in. Dr. Moore, I certainly could talk about too. I ended up taking her research practicum and did work with her in sport and exercise psychology research, and all of that was awesome. And she was a great mentor to me. But I was going to talk about her boss, one of the more distinguished lecturers, I think is his official title, Jeffrey Lamro. Professor Lamro is far and away my favorite professor I've had at Boston College, and I took some of his lecture courses early on, and now slowly I've gone into more of his elective courses. And as a senior, I'm taking his capstone class, which is a class specifically for students in their fourth year, their senior year at Boston College, to have a chance to reflect and also learn some of the professor's field of choice. So there's some very awesome conversation topics that go on. My own personal capstone is called How We Decide, and it's taught through the lens of psychology, which is Professor Lamro's chosen topic. You'll see other ones that have a lens through theology or through history and a lot of the different focuses of each professor. But for me, having the chance as a senior to look back on so much of my time at Boston College and reflect in itself is an awesome opportunity, but so is getting to know a professor on a very personal level. And I think you'll find maybe through some of the future stories that you're about to hear as well, that getting to know professors is in no way uncommon at Boston College, and so much you'll see them interacting with students, not just as students, but as fully fledged human beings, right? Getting coffee and texting or having cell phone conversations as opposed to just meeting in office hours or just exchanging emails. And that's been my relationship with Professor Lamro throughout my time at Boston College. He's been a great mentor to me from the day I walked into his office, and he helped me add the psychology major when I was an 18-year-old freshman to even now as a 21-year-old senior. We just had a super long conversation last week, and I learned about him running half marathons and his relationship with his kids, some of his pursuits in his life. And it's to the point where we follow each other on Strava now, the run tracking app. And if I'll go on a morning jog, I'll get a little email later in the day that says, Jeffrey Lamro sent you kudos. And I think that's a pretty small, fun microcosm of the Boston College community and how even faculty members are looking out for you, not just making sure you get good test grades, but also, you're looking after your own health, you're looking after your own personal life. And I think it's pretty cool that they're willing to spend their time and their energy to help students, not just in the classroom.
I can speak to another person. One of my greatest mentors is someone that I met my senior year. Her name is Emily Egan, and Emily is a part of the campus ministry department, and she's the director of our Arupe International Immersion Program. So Arupe has been something I've been wanting to participate in since freshman year, but it's been a little difficult with COVID since it's an international immersion program. It was kind of on lock for a little bit, but this year I had the opportunity to go to South Africa. And it was an amazing experience. There's about 5 different programs that run every year there, and they have different themes. So my theme was racial justice. Basically, we had programming starting all the way with a retreat in August, going up to January. We met every single week. We had group meetings about our identity, spirituality, faith, things like that. And we did discuss the history of South Africa and how there's like an intersection between faith and racial and social justice. And then we had community partners that we met when we were in South Africa and learned about the apartheid government and things like that. And we returned and did more reflection. You'll see there's a lot of theme with reflection here at BC and discernment. But Emily Egan is the person in charge of all the programs, making sure the students are okay and going to South Africa, going to El Salvador, Peru, Mexico, the border, the US border with Mexico. And she's just been an amazing friend and mentor to me this year. I think she's always heard me out when I needed to talk about something that was a little bumpy going on during the year. I brought my boyfriend to meet her so she can approve of him. She's just been an awesome like mother figure for me. And I think I really value the way that she sees life, how she values things in her life. And I think she's just like a social justice queen. And I think she's just someone that I want to have in my life for a long time. And she always brings me comfort whenever I go to her office. So she's been a special person for me, especially this year.
Thank you so much for sharing about your incredible mentors. I know that Boston College has given all of us so many opportunities to connect with people who have had more experiences than us that we can really learn from. And it's great to hear those stories. One of the questions we got is about, all those opportunities outside of class and what clubs we're in. So I'm going to ask everyone to go around and just give like a quick rundown of one club that either you are in on campus, or you can choose a club that like one of your friends is in, a club that someone else is in, that you can give a little quick description of, and a club that you think no one else would think of, like to share, like one that's like kind of quirky, maybe one that's like surprising that you wouldn't necessarily think of. All right. Whoever's ready can just jump in.
All right, I guess we'll start in the same order we introduced, maybe. And there's a million clubs you could mention. I think when people ask what's one word you would use to describe Boston College students, mine is typically involved. I think it's hard to find a Boston College student who isn't passionate about many things and involved in many organizations. I will shout out effective altruism. No surprise to the people on the panel, I'm sure. But I went through the process of creating my own club on campus. We have over 300 to choose from. But if you're like me and incredibly picky and want to start your own thing, you can. And I went through the process with the Office of Student Involvement to create my own organization, which is tailored towards figuring out how we can do good better is the tagline, and how we can use the resources, the education, the tools at our disposal to do the most good in the world. And I think it's an incredibly worthwhile pursuit, especially on a college campus where we have great minds and people to do amazing research, and we'll have awesome careers, and how we can learn to best tailor those things to making the world a better place is something I found myself to be very passionate about. And having such a community support a brand new endeavor of mine, I think has been awesome. The club has now been fully fledged and recognized by Boston College for just over 12 months. And we already have well over 500 people on the email lists, and have run 4 successful fellowships, which are kind of intellectual book clubs where we get students books and have weekly discussions and bring some snacks and have people talking about world issues from this lens of utilitarianism and looking at how we can do the most good for the most people. And I think it's awesome to see how much support we've gotten, and also how much a club like that's looking to talk more about how we can make a difference in the world. It's meant a ton to me, but it's also meant a lot to the people who have joined, and to have so much impact so early on in the club's life has been very special to me.
Amazing. I'm going to hit all 3 that you said, Sarah. So one general involvement rather than club that I've been a part of is with the Office of First Year Experience, which is directed towards working with first-year students, whether that be transfer students or freshmen. And there's so many things that are offered through that office that I've been so thankful to be a part of. Brian mentioned 48 hours, which is a retreat specifically for first-year students. So you literally go for 48 hours to the Cape and are just with other first-year students and some upperclassmen in conversations, just checking in. I was able to lead that. I, as well with Mikayla, was an orientation leader for 2 summers, which was such an amazing experience in so many different ways, being able to learn a lot more about myself, about what I could offer in terms of advice and mentorship, and also just learning more about the school. And they also partner with the office, with their Center for Student Information for a lot of mentorship, specific things. Like right now, 2 of my roommates are running an Ascend meeting, which Ascend is a specific group tailored towards female identifying students on campus. And it's just where they meet once a week, just talking about different topics, 2 upperclassmen with first-year girls. And then freshman league is the male identifying equivalent of that, which is really cool. Second thing, a club just I know a lot of people on, or clubs that I know a lot of people are on, are any of the dance groups on campus, which are some of the coolest people ever. And I know we all know a lot of people on it. But I know I can't dance well and I wish I could, but they all have this big showcase called Showdown, which is a big BC tradition. And it's basically like the best like version of any dance competition you've ever seen. And it's right in our Conti Forum, which is our hockey and basketball stadium. Tickets are sold out every single year. It's such an incredible experience. And they run a lot of dances throughout the school year, culture shows. We have Arts Fest coming up. So I know that a lot of them will be performing in different things like that. And then one different random group that a couple of my friends are actually a part of is something called the New England Classic. The New England Classic is actually the name of a sandwich that we have here, or a panini that we have here. But this club is a satirical club, and they're some of the funniest people on this campus. They do live shows, and we obviously have a lot of great comedy groups and improv shows, but I'm partial to this one. They just did a TED Talk night, basically, where they did different presentations and like TED Talks. And actually, I have never laughed harder. It is some of the greatest people and the funniest people, and it's cool to have those as well as all of the improv groups, which do different shows and do other kind of stand-up moments like that. But NEC, my roommate's a part of it, so I had to shout her out.
I'll also do one that I'm a part of, one that a friend is a part of, and funky. So a club that I'm a part of since my sophomore year is called the Organization of Latin American Affairs, or OLA for short. My mom is originally from Dominican Republic and my dad is originally from Colombia. Jen is also Colombian. Anyway, the Organization of Latin American Affairs is one of our culture clubs on Philly, and even just in the Hispanic heritage realm, there's so many different culture clubs. OLA is kind of like the overarching one, and then we have smaller clubs like CASA, which is for Cuban identifying students. We also have Dominican Student Association, so we have a lot of individual countries as well. We also have like Asian Caucus if you identify as Asian, a lot of different culture clubs on campus. But the Organization of Latin American Affairs has been a great sense of cultural joy and pride for me, and it's been a great way to continue to embrace my culture, to listen to the music I like to listen to, eat the food I like to eat. And we have different structures across campus in a lot of different organizations, where you have like a family structure where you have like two upperclassmen that are kind of like the parents to the underclassmen. So we have familias in OLA, and that's been a great opportunity to meet upperclassmen, and as an upperclassman to give back to underclassmen and serve as a mentor for them. We have Empanada Wars tomorrow, so we're going to have all of our different Hispanic culture clubs cook and make different empanadas. We had rice around the world a couple of weeks ago, and that was across all different kinds of cultures. They would bring their own rice. We had like rice and beans, and we had different types of rices from all different cultures all around the world. So OLA has been a great opportunity to engage with that. We also have Latino Family Weekend, where we invite our family to campus, and we have a culture show, we have a brunch, we have a gala. So that's been a great opportunity to embrace that side of my culture here at BC. Okay, one that my friend is a part of, I guess I'd go on the same theme of arts. I have a friend that's involved in an a cappella group on campus. He's in the Boston College Dynamics, and that's a really great opportunity. I feel like you just see that on Pitch Perfect, and then you're like, oh my gosh, this is real for people who don't participate in singing. So it's been a great opportunity to go to different shows and hear the amazing talent that BC students have. And there's plenty of different groups, like there's all male groups, there are co-ed groups that sing different genres and things like that. So that's been a great way to engage with the arts as a watcher, not necessarily a participant. And then another funky one that I've heard of is like a club. I don't know what it's called. If you guys know what it's called, great. But it's like you go and you listen to music together, and you just like vibe and you just listen to the music.
It's called Avid Listeners of Boston College. They have like a theme every week. People bring songs. Yeah, some of my friends are in that one as well.
So cool. So yeah, you literally just bring a song every week and you just listen to different songs with your friends, and it's literally a club. So you'll see wherever you end up going to school, they'll have crazy clubs like that. But I think BC really fosters students to engage with different sides of themselves in different ways. And I think what's cool about us not having Greek life is that we really kind of latch on to our different clubs and organizations in a good way, where you have a lot of intersecting spheres and they're not separated, because you might want to sing with your friends in a cappella, but you also are super tied to your culture. So you have culture group. And in that way, people are not only involved, you're not only meeting different people on different e-boards and stuff like that, but different people are coming to your events and helping you embrace your culture and what you believe in and what you're interested in. So I think it's just been a really beautiful culture for me here at BC.
Yeah, I kind of hate going last for this one because like by the time it gets to you, like I feel like all the coolest opportunities on campus are like covered. I was going to talk about service, and then Brian mentioned his club. I was going to talk about a dance, and then Jen mentioned dance. So we talk about cultural clubs, and then Mikayla mentioned cultural clubs. Like I don't know what to talk about. Like there's so many cool things on campus. I feel like you guys kind of encompassed it a lot. Like I think cultural clubs are amazing. Service clubs are incredible. Like I'm involved with one called BC Pigs, and that's been a really cool opportunity for me to give some service, to have an impact on the community around me and be a mentor for someone who hasn't had the same resources as me growing up as well. Uh, I've been involved in some like pre-professional clubs as well. So one that was involved was called the Investment Making Association, which is just helping students who are interested in pursuing career paths in that. But I think, I don't know if this technically counts as a club, but I think one of the coolest like student spots or student resources or opportunities to explore here on campus is probably the Makerspace or the Hatchery, which is in 245 Beacon Street, which is the newest academic building here on campus. Absolutely beautiful building, but inside that we have something called the Makerspace or the Hatchery, and that's a resource that any student is free can utilize, free to use, and can use as much as you want. And they have like 3D printers there, laser cutters, vinyl cutters, sewing machines, woodworking spaces, like you name it, like whatever kind of machine exists, I'm sure the Hatchery has it. And if they don't have it, they'll buy it for you to utilize. So that's a really cool space if you're interested in making things. So I always wanted to learn how to use a 3D printer, so I got trained in some of the 3D printers that they have there and made a couple of things for myself and for my roommate and for my friends. So me and my roommates are big soccer fans, so I made my direct roommate a little miniature FIFA World Cup trophy to put on his desk as well, just because I thought that'd be kind of fun. I've put stickers on my laptop that I've made in the hatchery as well, so that's been a really cool space for me to kind of explore like a little bit of creativity, just take my mind off classes while just going to the hatchery, making something, just spending time on those machines and not having to worry about classes is just something that I've really come to enjoy, and something that's really cool space, which I would recommend any student to utilize if they come to BC.
All right, awesome. So as you heard from these 4 people, but also all of their friends and connections on campus, there are so many different ways that you can get involved, right? Fill up that extra time. And like Mikayla mentioned, we are a school that does not have Greek life. And I think I would totally echo that. I would agree that students really do choose to engage with all of these extracurricular opportunities as a great way to spend that time and also just make connections with other students. And I think it really builds a sense of community here that I know we've all been able to find in so many different facets of our experience. So we've got just a little bit of time left. So I've got one more question, but I do want everyone to go around and answer it, please. So over your 4 days, you have lived, or I'm sorry, your 4 years, you have lived a lot of different days, right? So I want you to choose, what was your favorite day at Boston College? What did you do? What made it your favorite day? What happened? Over 4 years. Maybe it was the day of a tradition. Maybe it was a day that you had a certain club meeting, a certain class. Maybe it was a day that you left campus and did something fun because of what BC let you do. But let us know, what was your favorite Boston College day?
We're going same order? I guess so. Okay. My mind goes back to a few weeks ago, and this is a personal favorite. Again, probably will not surprise my dear friends who are joining me on the panel. And that is when I won my soccer intramural mug. Boston College is a big sports school, and there's a lot of pride around sports growing up. As the local on the panel, my local Coles in Massachusetts would have, Red Sox gear, Celtics gear, Bruins gear, and Boston College gear. And certainly on the Division I level, we're in the ACC. We have 31 varsity teams. We have club sports below that, which is your varsity equivalent, traveling, tryouts, weekly practices. But for the washed up like myself, intramural sports are the absolute premier part of society. And I have played plenty of intramurals, as my friends know, in my time, and winning the soccer intramural mug not only might be one of my favorite days in my Boston College career, but maybe one of my favorite days in my life. They put all of the different soccer teams together into one big bracket, and you go through, and our team ended up winning in the end, and it's so much fun. You're with all your best friends playing one night a week and all run together and celebrate. And if you win, you get a little mug, and you can hoist a mug. I'll walk up and grab it and show it to you guys while someone else is talking maybe, but not just that. The day itself was great. It was a random Thursday. I take a bunch of good classes on Thursdays, including the capstone I mentioned earlier, which I'm a big fan of. I showed earlier I'm a freshman league captain. So I'm a senior mentor to 8 underclassmen students. I also have those meetings on Thursdays, and we had a particularly good dialogue I can remember. And then afterwards, me and my entire team went into the city of Boston, which takes about 20 minutes on our public transportation. The subway system here in Boston, in which we have our own Boston College stop on our lower campus. And all in all, it was I can remember it being one of my favorite days at Boston College for a bunch of reasons, but chief among them winning an intramural mug.
Mine would probably be the red bandana football game during my junior year. So this is definitely going to be a controversial answer just because this was the first football game I ever went to, because I didn't go to a single football game my freshman year. Yep, I know. I see everyone's reaction.
That is why it's controversial. Wow, gosh, did not know that.
Yep, did not go to a single football game my freshman year just because I'd never watched a football game. So I was like, well, I don't want to go to this. And then sophomore year, because of COVID, there wasn't any games in person. And then finally my junior year, I was like, okay, maybe I should actually go to one. And I thought I should go to the red bandana football game because that's one of the best traditions we have on campus. And only when I lived it did I really understand what's so special about it. So for those of you who don't know, the Red Bandana Day and the Red Bandana football game honors Wells Prather, who was a former BC alumni. He graduated in the late 1990s. He was working in the Twin Towers during September 11. Went back in the towers after the 9/11 attacks, saved around a dozen or so lives, and unfortunately passed away in those attacks. He was identified as a man wearing a red bandana. There's an article in the New York Times about a man who went into the building to save around a dozen or so lives. And that's how his parents found out he passed away in those attacks. And he was known for always carrying a red bandana. So that's how they knew it was well. So every year, BC has a big football game, also a lacrosse game, and also a 5K, which they do to celebrate his legacy, his life, but also to remember his sacrifice and remember what it means to be a BC student here on campus. And so the Red Bandana football game is very, very special because every student is there. Lots of alumni will come back. Wells' family is there. Also there as well. So it's a very special time to be on campus. The football team wears commemorative jerseys in his honor as well. So it's a special time to be on campus and kind of honor his legacy, but also enjoy being a BC student. And so in my junior year, being in the student section, screaming and cheering on the football team, losing my voice, singing Mr. Brightside, going in between the stands and saying hi to all my friends and giving them a hug. That was something really special. And it only took me until my junior year to realize what was so special about some of these opportunities here on campus where the whole community kind of comes together. And I think that really got encapsulated in the Red Bandana football game for me.
I would say the Boston Marathon last year, not this year. Last year, I had a great time both times. This year, Flo Rida came and performed, and he was amazing. But last year, it was just more amazing. So basically, the Boston Marathon runs right down Commonwealth Avenue, which is right where Boston College is located, and we're at the top of Heartbreak Hill, mile 21 of the Boston Marathon. So all the runners are struggling going up. I can never imagine doing it, not a runner, but they're going up, and then they hit BC, and then it's like smooth sailing down into Boston. And it's an awesome experience to be able to wake up super early, 5-6 a.m. to go and cheer on the runners. And it's just a beautiful time of community for the Boston College campus. You'll see people lining both sides of the street, and it was just awesome, especially last year because it was coming back from COVID. I feel like sophomore year there was a lot more lockdown, a lot more restrictions. So coming out of COVID, being able to be with all of our friends and start to experience all the tradition that we had missed out on was such a beautiful experience, and to be able to have it again senior year has been awesome. So I would say the Boston Marathon.
This is really hard. And without being cheesy, seriously, I'm so incredibly grateful for every single day that I've had on this campus, COVID and not. And I can't say that this day specifically the best day, because I know I've had a million best days here with the people I've been around and have been surrounded with, but a memory that I just can never get out of my brain which was replicated junior year in some way, was freshman year. I lived on Newton campus, which is randomly basically 40% of the freshman class lives on Newton campus, which is an all freshman area essentially. And it was the Sunday after Thanksgiving break. And I was so excited to go for Thanksgiving break, was definitely homesick, but was coming back. And that was the first big snowstorm that we had here in Boston. Like I said, I'm from Orlando, Florida. So I had seen snow before, but never that much snow. I didn't even own snowshoes at the time, but everyone was going outside to play in the snow. So the tennis shoes had to do, because I still hadn't gotten my snowshoes, which I immediately got after that. But I think what I loved so much about that day is that for the next 4 hours that night, as everyone was coming back from their flights and just coming in and everything, we were just playing outside. And it was just a reminder that we can still be kids in college, and are able to have those moments of just pure unbridled fun and joy, which I think was so beautiful. And it was the first time where I was also coming back from being away from friends at BC that I had made. And I felt like, wow, I did miss these people. Like these people are becoming my home. It was such a fun experience just to do that. And obviously campus looked beautiful. And I know it was just such a cozy day. And I remember how much fun I had that day. And then junior year in the spring at the beginning, we had this insane snowstorm in January, at beginning of February. Anyways, one of those 2 days. And like all of the streets were covered in snow and everyone just went outside, and we were on the streets off campus because junior year, about 50% of students do live off campus during a semester. So we were just off campus. Someone brought a speaker outside. We were sliding through the streets, made my second snowman ever, the numbers are growing, so it's really exciting. But again, just being with people, and as 21-year-olds reminding ourselves that it's okay to have fun, and having that time where people really are just themselves and are just enjoying times with their friends, and then coming back, making hot chocolate, and having that time where people just really just want to be together and enjoy the snow, which obviously, again, as someone from Florida, I very much enjoy still, and I'm not tired of. Those are definitely two memories that are ingrained in my brain.
Well, those were all very heartfelt answers. I appreciate hearing about all of your favorite days, but just like Jen said, I would totally echo that there are so many wonderful, amazing days that we've gotten to have here at Boston College. So we are all obviously very grateful for these last 4 years and the wonderful experiences we've had to share with each other. We're also grateful for the chance to get to share them with you. So since it's 9 o'clock, I want to thank you so much for attending our panel this evening. If you have any questions for us, any further questions you want us to hear about, we are all going to put our email addresses in the chat so that you can write us an email. You can totally follow up if you have any other questions. So thank you so much for being here and have a great evening.